Before we begin, make sure you're somewhere quiet. Turn off the lights. Put on your headphones. Because the stories you're about to hear aren't just scary. These are the kinds of experiences people don't talk about. If you enjoy true horror stories, unsettling encounters, and disturbing events that happen to real people, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now, let's begin. The call came in at 2:17 a.m. I remember the time because I checked it twice, not out of habit, but because something about the ringing felt wrong. Phones don't usually ring like that anymore. This one didn't buzz or vibrate gently, it screamed. Sharp. Old. Like a landline alarm from the early 2000s. I was staying alone in my apartment that week. My roommate had gone back to his hometown after his father had a stroke, so the place had been quiet for days. Too quiet. The kind of quiet where you start noticing sounds you normally ignore, the fridge clicking, pipes shifting, footsteps from neighbors you don't recognize. My phone screen lit up, showing unknown number. I didn't answer it at first. Most people wouldn't. I wouldn't, usually. But something about it bothered me enough that I just stared at the screen until it stopped ringing. The silence afterward felt heavier than before, like the room was holding its breath. 30 seconds later, it rang again. Same number. I answered. Hello? For a few seconds, there was nothing but static. Not the digital kind either, this sounded like interference, like a bad radio signal. I almost hung up when a voice finally came through. It was a man. Middle-aged, maybe older. His voice trembled, not like he was scared, but like he was exhausted beyond fear. I think you can hear me. I didn't respond right away. Who is this? I finally asked. He exhaled slowly, as if relieved. Good. That means it's still working. That was the first thing that made my stomach drop. What's still working? I asked. There was a pause. Then he said, the call. The time window. I sat up in bed. Listen, I said, annoyed now, if this is some kind of prank. It's not, he interrupted. His tone sharpened, suddenly urgent. You don't know me, and you're not supposed to be the one answering. But you did. So now I don't have much time. My heart started beating faster. What are you talking about? He swallowed audibly. I need you to stay awake tonight. Whatever you do, don't fall asleep. I laughed nervously. Yeah, no. I'm hanging up. Please don't, he said quickly. If you hang up, I can't call again. That stopped me. How do you know that? Because I already tried, he said. With someone else. Something in his voice told me not to ask who. Instead, I asked, why me? Another pause. Longer this time. I don't know, he admitted. You weren't on the list. The list? I was only supposed to reach people who died between 2 o'clock and 3 a.m. My mouth went dry. I'm alive, I said. Very alive. I know, he said quietly. That's the problem. Before I could respond, the line crackled violently. The sound hurt my ears, like metal scraping metal. When his voice returned, it was weaker. They can hear us when the signal breaks, he whispered. So you need to listen carefully. Who is they? I asked. He ignored the question. At exactly 3:12 a.m., you're going to hear knocking at your door. My chest tightened. I glanced instinctively toward my bedroom door. Do not answer it, he said. No matter what you hear. What if no one knocks? I asked. He hesitated. Then you're lucky. And if someone does? You don't open the door, he repeated. You don't speak. You don't move toward it. Why? Because if you do, he said, voice cracking, they'll learn you exist. The call ended abruptly. I sat there in the dark, phone pressed to my ear long after the line went dead. I checked the time. 2:31 a.m. I didn't sleep. I tried to convince myself it was a prank, but the details didn't feel rehearsed. The man hadn't sounded amused or threatening. He sounded desperate. Regretful. At 3:10 a.m., I was standing in my kitchen, staring at the front door. At 3:12 a.m. exactly. Knock. Knock. 2 slow knocks. Not loud. Not aggressive. Polite. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. Then came a voice. Mistake, it said. Not male. Not female. Flat. Wrong. We have the wrong one. I didn't move. Another knock. Please open the door, it said. We just need to confirm. Confirm what? I stayed silent. The doorknob turned slowly. It didn't open. Just turned, testing. After a full minute, the voice spoke again. We'll try again another night. The knocking stopped. I checked the time. 3:13 a.m. I didn't sleep until sunrise. The next day, I checked my call log. The number wasn't there. That night, at 2:17 a.m., my phone rang again. Same sound. Same number. This time, I didn't answer. The voicemail came through seconds later. It was the same man. Crying. They know you now, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I moved into the apartment because it was cheap. That should have been the first warning. The building was an old concrete block from the late 70s, 6 floors, no elevator, and hallways that smelled permanently damp no matter how often they were cleaned. The landlord explained the low rent by saying the previous tenant had left suddenly, which I assumed meant a breakup, a job change, or maybe jail. I didn't press him. I wish I had. For the first 2 weeks, everything was normal. Quiet, even. Too quiet for a building with that many units. I never heard neighbors arguing, no TVs through the walls, no footsteps above me. It felt like I lived alone in a place meant for dozens of people. The first strange thing happened on the 15th night. I woke up at 3:40 a.m. to the sound of movement in my kitchen. Not a crash. Not something falling. Movement. Slow, deliberate footsteps. I lay frozen in bed, staring at my bedroom door. I hadn't locked it. I never did. The footsteps stopped just outside the doorway, and for a moment, I was certain someone was standing there, listening to my breathing. Then I heard the refrigerator open. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. Still 3:40. I didn't call the police. I didn't even shout. I convinced myself it had to be stress, maybe sleepwalking. I lived alone, after all. When I checked the kitchen in the morning, nothing was out of place. But the fridge light was burned out. That became a pattern. Every few nights, I'd wake up around the same time, between 3:30 and 4 a.m., to soft sounds in the apartment. Cabinets opening. The sink running briefly. The floor creaking in ways it never did during the day. But whenever I checked, everything looked normal. Until I noticed the food. Things were missing in ways that didn't make sense. 1 slice of bread. Half an apple. A spoon left in the sink when I was sure I'd put it away. At first, I blamed myself. Memory is unreliable when you live alone. Then one night, I locked my bedroom door. The noises still happened. But now, they were closer. I could hear breathing on the other side of the door. Slow. Patient. Like whoever, or whatever, was out there knew I couldn't see them. I didn't sleep that night. The next day, I confronted the landlord. He looked uncomfortable the moment I mentioned the noises. You said the last tenant left suddenly, I said. Why? He avoided eye contact. He didn't leave, he finally said. Not exactly. That was the second warning. What do you mean? I asked. He sighed. He stopped paying rent. Stopped answering calls. When we opened the unit, all his belongings were still there. So where did he go? The landlord hesitated. We never found him. My stomach dropped. Then why was the apartment rented again? Because, he said quietly, we assumed he moved on his own. I didn't ask anything else. That night, I set up my phone to record audio while I slept. At 3:47 a.m., I woke up to the sound of my bedroom door handle rattling. I held my breath. Something pressed against the door. Not pushing. Leaning. Like a body resting its weight there. Then came a voice. Very soft. You changed the rules. I didn't scream. I couldn't. The handle stopped moving. The next morning, I listened to the recording. At first, it was just static and my breathing. Then, at exactly 3:46 a.m., a second set of breaths appeared. Not mine. Slower. Deeper. Too close to the microphone. And then the voice. Clear as day. You're not the first one here. I packed my bags that afternoon. As I was leaving, I noticed something carved into the inside of my bedroom door. Shallow, uneven letters I'd somehow missed before. He never left. I moved out that day and never went back. Months later, curiosity got the better of me. I checked public records. The apartment was never officially vacated. The previous tenant's name was still listed. So was mine. Every house has a room that feels wrong. Ours was at the end of the hallway, across from the bathroom. The door was solid wood, painted the same dull beige as the walls, but it was the only door in the house that was always locked. Not usually locked. Always. Growing up, I never questioned it. Kids learn early which questions get answered and which ones don't. Whenever I asked what was inside, my mother would say, storage, too quickly. My father would change the subject. My older sister would go silent. So I learned not to ask. But even as a kid, I noticed things. At night, when the house was quiet, I could hear something coming from behind that door. Not loud. Not enough to wake anyone else. A soft, rhythmic sound, like breathing, but slower than any person I knew. Sometimes it sounded wet. Sometimes it sounded tired. When I told my parents, my father grounded me for making things up. My mother cried in the kitchen that night. I heard her whispering to him, over and over, he's starting to notice. That sentence followed me for years. The older I got, the more rules appeared around the room. No standing near it. No touching the handle. No friends over without warning. And above all, never, ever try to open it. When my grandmother died, things got worse. She had lived with us my entire life, quiet and sharp-eyed, always sitting in her chair facing the hallway. I realized later that from that spot, she had a perfect view of the locked door. At her funeral, I overheard my aunt whisper, "Now who's going to watch it?" That was the first time I felt real fear. A week after the funeral, the noises started changing. Instead of breathing, it became movement. Scraping. Fingernails against wood. Slow dragging sounds that traveled from one side of the door to the other, as if whatever was inside was pacing. One night, I woke up to whispering. It was coming from the hallway. I cracked my bedroom door and saw my father standing in front of the locked room, shirtless, holding something metal in his hand. My mother stood behind him, crying silently. He spoke in a calm, rehearsed voice. "You have to stay quiet. You know the rules." Something on the other side replied. Not words. A sound like a person trying to remember how to speak. My father raised the metal object. I heard a click. The sound on the other side stopped immediately. I shut my door and didn't come out until morning. Years passed. I went to college. Moved away. Built a life where locked doors weren't normal. Then my father called. My mother was sick. Terminal. He needed help. I didn't want to go back. But I did. The house felt smaller, darker. The hallway seemed longer. The locked door was still there, unchanged, but the wood was warped now, as if something had been pushing against it for a very long time. My mother was frail, barely conscious. On the third night, she grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't let it out," she whispered. "What is it?" I asked. Her eyes filled with terror. "It's your brother." I laughed at first. A short, confused sound. "I don't have a brother." She started crying. "You did." That night, I confronted my father. He didn't deny it. They had another child before me. Something was wrong with him. Doctors used words like unpredictable, dangerous, non-responsive. My grandmother convinced them not to send him away. His family, she'd said. We take care of our own. So they did. They locked him in that room. They fed him. Cleaned him. Watched him. And when he got older, stronger, they started sedating him. The metal object I'd seen? A tranquilizer gun. My mother died 2 days later. The night after the funeral, the house lost power. I woke to the sound of wood cracking. The locked door was bending outward. I ran into the hallway just as it split down the middle. Something stepped out. It was tall. Too tall. Its limbs were thin, joints wrong, skin pale and scarred from years of confinement. Its eyes reflected the dark like an animal's. It smiled when it saw me. A broken, familiar smile. It spoke my name. In my voice. My father appeared behind me with the tranquilizer gun. His hands were shaking. He fired. The dart missed. The thing lunged. I ran. I didn't stop until I was outside, barefoot on the lawn, listening to the sounds inside the house, furniture breaking, my father screaming, the walls shaking. The police found the house empty. No bodies. No blood. Just claw marks on the walls and one sentence carved deep into the hallway floor. He's free now. Sometimes, late at night, I hear breathing outside my apartment door. Slow. Patient. Like family.